You're watching TVC Breakfast. The Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons has described human trafficking as evil.
She discloses that the government and her agency is creating the needed awareness to help mitigate irregular migration. Moya Thomas reports.
People that work as maids and nannies are one of the most vulnerable who fall into the entrapment of trafficking. The situation is worse if it happens outside the country, with irregular migrants who are usually forced to accept negative conditions for survival. For most of them, returning to motherland is the only solution, but may be almost impossible to achieve as agents usually seize their travel documents. Efforts of NAPTAP has helped a lot of people in this category to return.
When we get reports concerning trapped victims, we work very closely. We also try to, to trace the agents responsible, and then we bring these girls back, and we carry on from there. Most of the time, we work with our partners, the IOM. IOM over the years has been really instrumental to bringing back trapped victims of trafficking to Nigeria. So we work very closely with our partners, IOM. We work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the embassies in the countries. And then together, we're able to bring them back.
According to the Director General, a changed mindset is very important for the Nigerian youth as the government strives to change the economic fortunes of the country.
Some of these guys don't even realize that even those that come from those countries, some of them don't even have jobs. The most annoying part of this is that they pay so much money to get trafficked. So the question now is, how poor can you be if you have so much money to give to a trafficker to traffic you? Whereas you can use that money to do something in Nigeria. So you can see the mindset, we have to change the mindset. There has to be a national orientation and reorientation on the way the youths of these days think that anything outside their country is better than Nigeria. They always think the grass is greener on the other side, but that is absolutely false.
Trading persons for forced labor, sexual predation or exploitation all amounts to trafficking, and it is important to watch out for the signs. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTAP, is a government agency created to tackle human trafficking. Part of the functions of the organization is investigating all cases of trafficking brought to its notice and creating measures to prevent such.
Thank you so much.
Moya Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, joining us now is Dikbo Oyewole, strategy consultant and public affairs analyst. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
now,
for having me.
when you talk about trafficking, some have said it comes in different forms. Some people do not even know their children are being trafficked because they are seeking a better life for their children. So they hand their children to these persons who do whatever they want with these children. How are most of the times the issue, underlying all of these issues is poverty?
Yes.
How does this complicate these issues of trafficking?
Okay, well, first, addressing the issue of poverty is one thing, but we also need to address the issue of literacy. Because if a child is able to get an education, the child will know enough that, okay, this is what I deserve. I shouldn't have to.
But the parent is saying, I want you to go.
Yes, well, that's also the tragic part of it, really, and that's where the poverty comes into play. And I think that Nigeria is a place where we have a lot of people who are vulnerable that fall into this gap, because according to the United Nations, there are different factors that are uniform in different nations of the world where you have people that are being trafficked. For example, you have illiteracy, you have poverty, you have conflict, you have corruption, and these are boxes that Nigeria, unfortunately, we've been able to check positively in. So I think that these are issues that the government need to tackle, but bringing it home to us as individuals. I think that awareness is very important because, like you said, some parents don't even know that their children are being trafficked. They just say, okay, take my daughter, take my son to Lagos to help get an education or to help get a job or something. So people don't even know that they are actually trafficking
How
their
are we
children
supposed to get awareness when we have an agency who doesn't even try to give information to Nigerians? How do you expect this vulnerable set of individuals to gain this information about trafficking?
Okay, well, I believe it's a collective responsibility as a people, and we shouldn't just leave it to the government agencies saddled with that responsibility. Either they're getting the job done or not, because as a people, we exist in a society, and we have to be responsible to that society. So we also should try and put out some form of awareness, and we should also be knowledgeable ourselves so that we could spot the signs of when somebody is being trafficked, and we can also raise the alarm in case there's any form of suspicion. So I believe it's a collective responsibility and not just the responsibility of government.
As much as it is a collective responsibility, let's break it down to roles. We know how the kind of influence that some religious leaders wield over people, and even traditional rulers. You could recall the Oba of Benin placing a curse. And, you know, all of this, how important are they in taking up these roles to ensure that we stem the tide of trafficking?
Well, it is very, very important, because being in positions of authority like that, either you're a traditional ruler or you're in government, bestows on you certain levels of responsibility, and people then get to respect what you say. People follow you because you have a certain influence over their life. So I think it's very important that they set the stage and they lead the pack of people who are saying no to this and helping to drive awareness with regards to this issue, while doling out consequences if and where they can to ensure that this is stopped.
Now, Nigeria became a signatory to the Transnational Organized Crime Convention and Trafficking in Persons Protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking. That was in the year 2000. And we also have other laws against trafficking in persons since then, but we have continued to see the rise in these activities. How effective has our policies been to ensuring this?
Okay, well, I believe our policies are as good as our actions, because so far have we been able to lift people out of poverty like the government said they would? Have we been able to get people educated enough so that we can avoid this social ill that we're talking about right now, talking about human trafficking? So I believe that the policies are one thing, our actions are another. And I think that the government of Nigeria hasn't been quite responsive. And when I say the government, I mean the government at various levels, the federal, the state, the local government. They haven't been effective and they haven't been deliberate with ensuring that the policies are properly met by actions.
But that's a problem in this part of the world where implementation is our issue in this place. So how do we move from non-implementing these policies to ensuring that these policies are adhered to strictly?
Well, it goes to us being deliberate about seeing any form of progress, because it isn't rocket science. I mean, we can have 2 minutes on air right now. You give us an issue, and then you find out that we're able to trash it out. So the question is, what are the people in government saddled with this responsibility of getting this done? What are they doing? I mean, they have 2 months, they have 2 years to sit on these things. So why is it difficult to execute? So are we talking about, is that where we talk about the body language, like we like to say in Nigeria? Or is it about the willpower? Or is it the political will that we're talking about? But I think that we've gotten to a place where we need to decisively take deliberate action, not just with
what would be a decisive and deliberate action now at dealing with all of these things at the various level of government?
Okay, well, it would be about, one, there should be consequences being enforced. In the law, it is clearly stated, you traffic in human beings, this is the consequence. But what have we seen so far? How many people have been brought to book? How many people have been prosecuted? How many people have been jailed? Okay, we need to see a lot more of that, and that should be done without any fear of favor.
But there's the issue of the political will.
Yes, so we're back to the political will and the body language. I think that certain things should not be politicized. This is about human life.
But then again, there are issues because the people who engage in these activities, it's more like a ring, and investigation, it's quite difficult. And when you get victims, they do not want to speak because perhaps there are certain things they have sworn to and it's difficult for them, the consequences might be dire. So how does this, how do we break this whole circle? Because somehow it is said to be complicating the efforts being made.
Well, it is true that there are different syndicates around the country, even around the world, where that are responsible for this heinous act. And that's why I'll say that even as individuals, we have our role to play. We're members of a society, and if we suspect that something like this is going on, we should report to the authorities. And
you know how suspicion goes? Because people become victims when they speak that they suspect.
Yes, well, I believe that if we're being sincere about doing this, the government should be able to put together a system that encourages anonymous reporting, okay? Because we know that even in Nigeria, sometimes we don't get to report certain crimes to the police or to the authorities for fear of attack and all of that. So I believe that the reporting system should be anonymous. However, there should be thorough investigation carried out.
Just like the whistleblowing
Just like the whistleblowing. So the people should be encouraged to report while investigation is thoroughly carried out. I mean, thoroughly carried out and deliberate with actions backing it up.
Dikpo Oyewole, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.